Hi there once again. Great to have you with us here on Leading Edge. I'm your host, Jeff Smith. Coming up a little later, get ready for the knock at your door. FirstEnergy is in the process of converting your electric meter to a digital one. Now, you can opt out, but that's going to cost you. The details are coming up in just a bit. But first, I asked the members of my first guest weeks ago to keep me updated when they have anything on the radar because I find who they are and what they do fascinating. Midstory touts itself as an educational media organization. A lot of them have local roots and found greener pastures at one time, but decided to come back and inform, interpret, and inspire through stories of the Midwest. They've done it again, this time with an exhibit that stretches all across the state of Ohio. Withstanding is what it's called. It opened Friday, and it gives us an opportunity to not only dive into the history of the current home for Toledo School for the Arts and the structure that is now Toledo Pickle, but also the journalism and the storytelling that came out of these exhibits. So, joining me today on set, Ruth Chang and Celia Johnson from Midstory. Great to have you with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Ruth, let's start diving into this and just the concept and coming, because if you go to Midstory's webpage, midstory.org, if you go check out the webpage, it's fascinating, all of the storytelling that has happened over the past 7 years at this point.
Yeah.
But this one in particular, what was the rub? What was the fascination?
Well, I mean, in Ohio, of course, we have a lot of legacy buildings, right? Legacy.
How did you define that?
Manufacturing legacy, right? Legacy with our cities in Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati. And these buildings, a lot of them are being torn down, right? So how do we continue to preserve them and keep them relevant for the present moment and for our communities today? And if you look around the state of Ohio, you'll see that happening all over, which is what we did.
Yeah.
We looked at buildings that, had a manufacturing legacy. That was at one time at the height of wartime production of ammunition or of cars, and how these sort of impacted the entire nation and not just what we think, oh, it's just the Midwest, right? And so I think we were incredibly interested in how buildings shape the lives of the people around them, but also the nation at large. And so diving into these stories, diving into this mini documentary series was a perfect way for us to really explore people, how our relationship with the site and the built environment can really shape our future.
Withstanding the name, I mean, it can go 100 different ways. How did you guys focus that, or did you mean for it to have, for people to take it as they wanted to take it?
Yeah, I think withstanding is definitely meant to have multiple meanings.
Yeah.
So we definitely think about the idea of just like a history that withstands the test of time, right? And then we think literally about a building that's standing in place. So there's like the physicality of the building, but then also like its histories.
Yeah. You talked about the manufacturing background, and I mean, was it you had to leave a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor? There were so many to go through?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, when we first started, it was about two years ago almost now. We were researching, and it's a grant project, so we were pitching this project to America 250 in Ohio. And so this project really looked at, buildings from,
Touch on that a little bit, because I know that was impactful in all of this, coming up on the celebration.
That's right. So next year, 2026, is 250th birthday of America. So obviously nationwide, there's going to be celebration, and our grant was a part of that, to celebrate our history here in Ohio. And our identity. And building seemed like a really great way to do that. You get a little bit slice of the past and how that influences the present and future.
Yeah.
And so looking at, you talked about the cutting floor. We did have like, a long list, a very long list of like 50 plus buildings and sites that we were looking at.
That many?
Yeah, and there's plenty, right? But the question is, what is the criteria, right? And I think for us, we really wanted it to be able to engage some kind of a community, right? So there should be a public component to a building, not just a hotel or something that's really private to one person.
Restaurant.
Or a restaurant, right? And so like there should be something that is speaking of a public life in Ohio. And the other one was really talking about the diversity in terms of urban and rural, right? We wanted to have a range of that as well as of course location. And it also should have some kind of architectural specificity, right? And so, I mean, we talked about manufacturing in our area, Toledo School for the Arts. used to be the auto finishing plant. And so that kind of legacy can really inform us in creative ways, leading us into the future now, of course, being a school. That's just one example.
Celia, dive into the what we found, right? Let's talk about Toledo School for the Arts, that building in particular. And she talked about the auto manufacturing history or the auto role that it played in a wartime facility. Talk about what you found and what you have seen created out of that.
Yes, the Toledo School for the Arts actually had 3 interesting past histories. So it started out as a finishing plant for Willys Overland, which of course invented the Jeep. And then it was a glass manufacturing space for Owens, Illinois. And then it was actually a sort of an innovation space where multiple people rented space, and one of those tenants was the person who developed the first ever plastic Coca-Cola bottle. So in a lot of ways, we saw that building as just tied in.
Say that again. You just said that kind of quickly.
Yes, sorry.
What?
It was the first plastic Coca-Cola bottle that was developed in that building.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And so in a lot of ways, we just see that building as completely tied to Toledo's manufacturing history. And then we're thinking about, there was a lot of deindustrialization. And so people are still thinking about, like, what is the future of Toledo after deindustrialization? And so, having a school that is designed to, teach the next generation of people to think, they have like performing arts classes, but they also are really big on just integrating the arts with all the other subjects in the school.
You talked about the urban landscape and obviously the uptown area, and TSA was a big part of that. Now, there were established building, Manhattan's was there long before TSA ever came to fruition, but you talk about the importance of the area, the neighborhood. Did you guys dive into that at all, and what does that mean in the scope of what you chose around the state of Ohio?
Yeah. I mean, so maybe some of the examples of our other sites might be important. So, for instance, we had really, really urban sites in the middle of the Huff neighborhood in Cleveland, right, which has a history of redlining. And so how that impacted the school that ended up becoming a manufacturing training center, really interesting, right? And then the other site would be, 30 miles north of Cincinnati in a, I would say, pretty rural area, woodsy area along a creek. You have this massive sort of looming factory that had one time, manufactured one of the most ammunitions in the country, right? And so you have all these different types of locations that then sort of became different kinds of communities. So in the case of the Cincinnati example, the Pierce Cartridge Factory ended up forming the next town over, because that's where all of the workers had to have housing and their livelihood was all there. And so you see how these buildings become, catalysts for change, for something much larger than themselves.
This is not only a story that is unfolding here on Leading Edge, but it's also an exhibit at the downtown library. Coming up, stay with us, we've got another segment to hit. Coming up, architecture and storytelling, and what these projects have to say about sustainability. Stay with us. Welcome back once again, talking with the members of Mid-Story, Ruth Chang, Celia Johnson, talking about the Withstanding exhibit that is opening at the main library downtown Toledo. It just opened on Friday.
That's right.
I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about when you talk exhibit, because there's been storytelling. You can go online, read as much as you want as far as the text is concerned. This is a showcase. How do you go about putting it together, what you want people to walk through, what you want them to experience?
Well, I think especially at the library, it's really interesting. The library has a gallery, right? And so working within that space, how do you bring the most amount of people into that space, right? And actually, it's in a neighborhood that actually has lots of walking people who can come in. And so anybody can come in, feel free to visit the gallery. The gallery space is set up where each site, we covered 6 sites of the buildings, has its own panel, and they're sort of really large, immersive, colorful, that we really want people to be able to walk in and be confronted by these facades. And then on the other side of the gallery, you have to visit yourself.
Of course.
But we're
looking at some of the photos you
guys
guys
provided.
Fantastic.
Yeah. You'll see the films that are on display. I think one interactive portion that's really going to be fun for visitors is we created a little passport booklet. So then as you walk through the space and explore the various flashcards that we put up, there's also bespoke stamps that comes with, so it's almost as if you're visiting these sites across Ohio yourself, right? After you watch these videos.
Celia, talk about architecture a little bit and why that is such a, I guess, kind of an attention grabber as far as storytelling is concerned.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's just very striking. We tried to choose sites that, not only have an interesting history, but are very interesting visually to look at. Like there's a building in Columbus called the Open Air School, and it was designed by the person who also designed the Ohio Stadium. So he was a big architect in Columbus, and it has, it's a school. It's designed to educate people, but it has all these lovely, like whimsical touches. Like it has these bricks that are intentionally misaligned, and those are all things, they were designed with the visual in mind. So I think that translates itself really well to an exhibition.
How did Toledo Pickle, the new facility for Toledo Pickle, come into the mix?
I think we're really interested in doing something that was a little different from some of the former ones that we had picked, and Toledo Pickle came in because it was really a story that was more than just a site. Unfortunately, if you look at the site, it's like a lot of other urban riverfronts, right? It's industrial for long periods of time. It had all kinds of sand and salt and all kinds of stuff there. But especially in our case, we're sort of in the middle of a really exciting moment where the riverfront as a whole is being transformed.
Right.
So it's no longer just one site or one building that's adapted. It's actually a rethinking of an entire city's riverfront.
Yeah.
And for us, that's really exciting to be able to expand the definition of architecture to become even a landscape.
Did you get that kind of Herculean effort feel from either Mike Gibbons or Brian Epstein talking about when they saw the opportunity here that this was going to be a big lift? This is obviously an area that hadn't had anything like this. And when you try to create something for a community and also something for the future, that can be pretty arduous.
I think absolutely. I think they were very aware that they're just one program within a large sort of 5-mile stretch of programming and environmental remediation that's happening on both sides of the river. So I think they're very aware of the scale of it. And we actually also interviewed, local folks, business owners, who, also had concerns. Hey, is this going to be something great for the community? We're Vistula, right? And so I think these are very valid concerns, and I think this is where, storytelling can also help keep us sort of like aware of what's happening in the world around us and give us an opportunity to respond as well. So we're really grateful for that.
Celia, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and even practically, it was a lot of work. There were a lot of renovations, but they were able to do it so quickly because they preserved the shell of the building, because it was an adaptive reuse
Had
project.
good bones.
Right. So when we think about, what are the benefits of adaptive reuse, there are all these reasons that have to do with our history, but there are also really good, just practical reasons to reuse buildings, because when you don't have to tear down a building, why tear down a building?
Yeah, we got 30 seconds. Proudest moment about this?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I think the proudest moment will, on Friday when the exhibition opens and everything is just completed. That's a really satisfying
What about you?
moment.
What were you happiest with?
I think response of the people that we interviewed, them showing up at our exhibit and talking to them again and seeing that, we are making an impact and also inspiring more people as we move forward.
Yeah.
Hopefully inspiring more people in Toledo as well.
Of course, the importance of what Mid-Story is doing. If you haven't checked it out, listen, go check out this exhibit once again at the library downtown. It goes through the rest of the year with standing. It is worth a look. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay with us here on Leading Edge. Coming up, what you should be thinking as FirstEnergy is rolling out its smart meter programming. Welcome back. FirstEnergy is rolling out its smart meter installation initiative, hitting Toledo area neighborhoods this fall. It is sparking discussion on privacy, savings, and grid resilience. I had the chance to speak with a FirstEnergy representative about the rollout. Check it out.
Customers will get that notification on their doors when they're expected to see somebody show up to install a meter. And it will outline the time frame further of when they should expect the meter installers to come out. We do have a map on our website that kind of gives a general overlook of when people and customers can expect to see their neighborhoods start to get those smart meters.
And for consumers, we wanted to know from Hannah from FirstEnergy, what should they be thinking about the pros or the cons about this program?
I think that's really important for our customers to know is that these people who are coming to install the meters will be identifiable. They'll either be a FirstEnergy employee or our contractor is Wellington, and they will be also identifiable by their company name. And so we certainly want our customers to understand that these people are coming and they're trained, they know what they're doing, and they're going to insert the meter, the smart meter. And they should not have to come inside your home. They should be able to access what they need outside with where the current meter is and just swap those out. So we just want customers to be aware of the fact that they shouldn't be asking to come inside. They should have what they need. They're just notifying the customers of the process. The electricity goes out for just a couple minutes while they install. So they go to the door and make the customer aware that that's about to happen. But that's kind of the process.
So we appreciate her spending some time with us talking kind of about the nuts and bolts of this process. I think a lot of people have seen this play out. Gary Leidick joining us. He is from the University of Toledo Engineering Department. You've got some history with FirstEnergy, but I also wanted to talk to you from a learned standpoint of just wrapping our minds around, I guess, this smart grid and this smart technology and how people who may be a little gun shy about having this done, what they should be thinking.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Jeff.
Course.
It's great to be here. And they need to think about a lot of things. This is a transition in technology, not unlike we went through with telephones. Talk to our grandkids about black phones with 2 wires, okay? Mm-hmm. And so this is another move in the direction of the grid and the homeowner's ability to integrate with the grid successfully through electronics. Right now, everything's kind of manual. You turn your lights on manually and all that. A smart home, a smart grid does a lot more automatically for you, programmed if you'd like. So that's where we're heading. This is just an initial step by the utility industry to put that meter in. The basic idea now is to share information back and forth between the utility and the homeowner, the customer. Yeah. Improves billing, accuracy, gets rid of estimated bills, which people don't like. So there's a lot of short-term advantages. The long view is you can do whatever you like in terms of controlling all the electric appliances and everything in your home. So I think that's kind of where we're heading.
From an education, we always talk as teachers, I'm a former teacher too, but as you talk about it, teaching moments in the classroom, how do you move this forward? How do you move this down the road? Because can you take this, I guess, next generation of energy and technology and kind of get lessons from it?
Oh, absolutely.
And what about regulation? Does that play into it?
Well, we could do a half an hour on regulation. I'll spare you on that. But the regulators are heavily involved, and that's important. The FCC controls the devices, and of course, the Public Utilities Commission here in Ohio has a lot to do with how all the pricing and all that works. But where this is going from an academic standpoint, we have a program at the University of Toledo, Energy Engineering, put in several years ago. The whole idea is to get back into the energy business and move ourselves forward. It's been pretty stagnant technologically for the past several years. We haven't grown very much. That's changing. It's changing very quickly, and the university and the customers will have to adapt to those changes.
We talked to Hannah a little bit more. I want to go to our next part of the interview. We talked to her a little bit more about the hesitation that people might have about this changeover.
This rollout is part of an effort to invest in our electric grid and make it smarter and able to bounce back quicker. So we've seen success in restoring power quicker after a storm because of these smart meters. They allow us to confirm outages without having to send crews to a specific area. And that just operationally helps us get power restored quicker. That's just one good reason that we are pursuing this investment in the area. And they also allow customers to look at their energy usage pretty much in real time and make adjustments based on that data that's coming in. So it's really another tool for customers to be able to control their energy use.
I find it fascinating because it's like, I remember the days of calling on the phone saying there's an outage, or now going online saying there's an outage. She's pointing toward the direction, and I'm sure you've talked to students about this. It's instantaneous. Well, maybe not instantaneous, but it's pretty quick.
It sure is. And most people don't realize that unless you call in, the utility doesn't necessarily know that you're out of service, if it's especially just a few homes. Yeah. So this would be a great improvement in terms of outage response and reliability, and that's a big benefit that she points out. We're easing our way into this. If you look at other models in North America, up in Canada, over in Europe, they're technologically advanced more than we are in some cases. In Europe, utilities don't hesitate to shut off somebody through their smart meter if they don't pay their bill. I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing where we could be heading very much.
What about the data privacy issue? And we're going to hear from her on that just a little bit.
Yeah, that's always an issue. Anytime you send any information via the airways, there's always an opportunity there. So that's something that I think they're very concerned about. I think they have a separate system rather than use Wi-Fi. So that's much more secure. It's not something you can just drive by and tap into.
You know, the one thing I didn't ask her was if this gets away from the estimated bills that we all
That's
get.
exactly right, yeah, and those are annoying for sure. So
Yeah.
I can say that now that I'm not with the utility. So.
Let's hear more from Hannah.
We take our customers' privacy really seriously, and customers should know that really the only difference in this meter is that it's transmitting the information about energy use through a specific identifier on the meter number and your address. It's transmitting that information to us a couple of times a day versus just once when the meter readers come around. They're secure, and this technology should not be a privacy concern to them.
There is also an opt-out option, but it will cost you money. I wanted to ask you specifically your feelings. More pros than there are cons with this changeover?
Well, I'm in favor of these. I think like any technology, there's going to be a break-in period. People are going to get anxious on the data and all those kind of things. But in terms of reliability and control, much greater improvement. Information for the customers, much greater improvement. You'll be able to see what's going on in your system. And where this could go, Jeff, is we could be in a situation where...
We're going to have to leave this the last word, Gary.
Okay.
Sounds like you're in favor of it.
No, that's good. I am. Thank you. Sorry.
We appreciate it. I'm getting a hard wrap. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. Just a reminder, comments, ideas for the shows, you can contact us. The email address, leadingedge, all one word, at WTOL.com. We'll see you next time. I'm Jeff Smith. Listen, learn, and lead.